And now we have the 2011 winner of the L.P. Nelson Feature Writing Contest, Mr. Ralph Mason of Milwaukee, an Air Force veteran. Okay, I'm going to turn it over to you. Should I hold the microphone?
You might want to hold the mic there, Bill.
Does somebody want to read it?
Sure.
Yep.
Let's do that.
Yep.
Do we have a volunteer? Okay, I can do it. All right. And I'll give this to you afterward, I promise. This was a Sunday, May 2nd, 2010. I'll long remember. I went on the 2010 honor flight to Washington, D.C. with 300 veterans. I was 90 years old and looking back on a 4-year stint in the Air Force during the World War II era. This flight was only for World War II veterans and terminally ill veterans. Some of these men and women like me had never been to Washington, D.C., so this was a very special treat for us. I had to be at Milwaukee's Mitchell Field at 4:25 in the morning. You're an early riser. When I got there, they saw I needed a wheelchair, and they were good enough to see that one was provided. After being checked in and my picture taken, I was given a bag breakfast of an egg and bacon sandwich and orange juice. Big on the details, which all writers should be. After breakfast, we were led to the security area where we were checked for our boarding pass. My seat was in the back of a 747, a 430-seat plane. I was lucky I had an aisle seat. Before I go any further, let it be known that each veteran had an escort at all times. The flight to Washington took 1 hour and 30 minutes. When we arrived there, I departed out the back door of the plane and down the rear steps, about 30 of them. Military men and women stood on both sides of the steps to help us down. When I got to the bottom, a wheelchair was waiting for me, and I was put on one right away, and they wheeled me to the tour bus while everyone was shaking hands with me and saying, "Welcome to Washington." What a feeling, you have no idea. Next, they took us to Arlington National Cemetery. We drove around and saw all the graves, but I didn't get to see the main building in front. But it was really something to see all those monuments lined up in a row. It made you think about all those men and women who died in our wars. It gave me a lump in my throat. From there, we drove to the tomb of the unknown soldier. There, we watched the changing of the guard, which was very impressive. Another thing that impressed me was that the sergeant of the guard took 4 or 5 of the children who were just 7 or 8 years old and had the kids place a wreath on a stand near the front of the tomb of the unknown soldier. We ate our box lunch on the bus, a roast beef sandwich, fruit salad, and a cookie. By the way, supper also was in a box, a tuna sandwich and a cookie, but you weren't that concerned about food. So while the bus drove to the World War II memorial, we ate lunch. This was the highlight of our trip, to see the memorial wall dedicated to World War II veterans who lost their lives. There's a monument making up the wall from each state. My granddaughter Leah and her husband Julius met me there. It was really good to see them. We took lots of pictures and had a gay old time. I don't get to see them that often. We spent an hour and a half there taking pictures in a group, and the Charlie Company organizers were busy taking pictures of all of us. It was quite a time. The next stop was the Iwo Jima Memorial. It was really something to see the American flag being raised by the Marines. This is in honor of all the U.S. Marines who had given their lives since 1775. We were then taken on a bus tour of Washington, where we saw the Capitol, the Washington Monument, the Lincoln Monument, and other places of interest. After the bus tour, we drove to the Air Force Monument for a short time. We saw the 3 monuments high in the sky, representing the service and the sacrifices the men and women had made for their country. There were other displays to see too, all of which were very interesting. We then traveled to the Pentagon for a short visit. We saw the graves of the men and women who lost their lives during the terrorist raid on the Pentagon, September 11, 2001. That was very heartbreaking to see. From there, we returned to the Washington airport, boarded the plane, and flew back to Mitchell Field, where we were greeted by several thousand people. The surprising thing that there were bands playing and organizations were awaiting us, like the Disabled American Veterans, the American Legion, the VFW, the police department, the fire department, the sheriff's department, and more, all waiting for us. Among the people greeting us were children, grandchildren, and even some great-grandchildren, little 3, 4, and 5-year-olds. Many called out, "Hi, Grandpa." It really made you feel good. I'll always remember this homecoming day, as will all the other veterans. As we went through the airport, you can't imagine how exciting it was as I waved my flag that was given to me as people said, "Welcome back. You did a good job and a good deed for your country. We're proud of you." It was inspiring to see so many people coming out to greet us. It had been a long day, but everyone enjoyed themselves, and we give thanks to the Honor Flight organization for doing this for our band of veterans. Ralph Mason.
So many people greet you when you come off the plane. I was the second one to get a wheelchair to come off that ramp, and the people greeting us and go through the aisles of Mitchell Field, and people waving to you, and the little kids greeting you, "Hi, Grandpa, hi, Grandpa." That was quite a sight to see. And my son was supposed to meet me, and he was at the airport there somewhere, and I didn't know where he was. And my escort left me at one of the buildings there at the very end, and I didn't know where I was. But finally, one of the escorts let me use his cell phone, and my son finally caught up with me.
You linked up, good.
And we linked up finally, and I got home about 1 o'clock in the morning, and that was something too. But if you ever get to Washington and go through the War Memorial and the different things there, that's quite a sight to see. And they keep making these flights for the World War II veterans. They had about 5 or 6 of them already, and they're doing more all the time. So it's a great thing for them to do. Thank you very much for this award.
So what you're saying, Rob, was a day pretty well spent.
And how?
Good. With all the winners of the feature writing contest